Hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. So as an SEO, you probably already know that content is a huge part of ranking. It's a huge part of getting your site even indexed. But a lot of people go overboard with content, and there's a lot of low quality content, and you can get it wrong all the time. In fact, you can get it wrong more. There's a higher probability of you getting it wrong than there is of you getting it right until you've actually studied how to do good content. Now, over the years, we've experimented with various types of content, various writing styles, and things have changed a lot over the past few years, even with Google's algorithm. The latest warehouse APIs leak especially have to do with content, an eye-opener, at least for me as an SEO, because I made a previous video about a few APIs that evaluate content, and I found a few more that also evaluate content, and in particular, content that is biased. And I think that this not only applies to informational sites, but this also applies to news sites. And Google doesn't just have this one API that I talk about in addition to all the others that work as a team or a cluster to evaluate content on websites and compare the content on your website to other competing websites to find which one does the best job of communicating. But then it also, what these APIs do is that they're also filtering out low quality content. And as I'll show you in this video, there's a lot more to content than meets the eye. And future videos, I've also found a whole bunch of other APIs, and I've figured out like what exactly they're doing, which I think will be an eye opener for many people that want to do their own SEO or any SEOs that want to up their game. So enough talk, let me take you to my screen and we'll go through the APIs.
All right, so Google's algorithm detects bias in your text, and this is something we found buried deep within Google's warehouse APIs, which leaked a few months ago. And I've already made quite a few videos about the warehouse APIs. There's an entire playlist about that. You can go ahead and check it out. And so the warehouse APIs, for those who don't know, or those who are new to my channel, were leaked a few months ago and mainly Go library of APIs that Google uses as part of its algorithm to determine rankings for websites. It's not in its entirety. It's only bits and pieces of the algorithm that we know of. Now, when it comes to Google's algorithm, we have already always known that to some extent, Google does have the ability to detect bias. Now, with the algorithm leak, we know that there's an API that's dedicated to detecting bias within text. And I would be willing to bet that there's more than one part to this, or there are multiple APIs that actually do this. So while this is the one API that detects bias and it's written in the text, it stands to reason that there are others. Now, for those who remember, a lot of websites got slapped in 2003 with the review update, and many websites that had been slapped were saying that it's the end of the content sites. I still get people who comment on my videos that say that there's an end of content sites or small content sites. That is not really the case. The problem is that a lot of the sites that were slapped by the update, and this is something that I found when I was working with those clients, was that there was a lot of bias in the text. And so they were openly, biased towards the products that they were reviewing, when in fact they were saying, or they were trying to allude to the fact that they were not biased, but the text said otherwise. So when there was a discrepancy between what the text says and what the website was supposed to be, those websites were slapped. So not only review sites, but review sites for the most part were slapped. Affiliate sites were also slapped, and review sites or an affiliate sites are kind of like the same thing, but both types of sites were slapped very hard. But what I found was after we started revising the text, things began to change when the text became more unbiased and the language we used was more balanced. The rankings came back. Now, a lot of the sites that I worked on are still not where they were before they got slapped in 2003 by the update, but they're certainly getting there because they had like 8,000 pages of content, and a lot of the content was highly biased content because they were selling stuff on Amazon, or they were, selling a service, whatever that may have been. It has taken time to redo a lot of the content. And then in addition to that, there's a lot of technical SEO stuff that we've been working on that site. And there's a lot of internal linking. There's a lot of structurally related stuff that we've been working on. So for the most part, it's at least a 2-year process, and we're still into the first year. But We recovered almost 75% of the traffic, so we're on the right path. So speaking of others, there are other reasons that you may be labeled as a spam site, or your website or your pages may be labeled as spam, which is something we will go into.
I just want to add here that I offer SEO services and I also offer website audit services. If you're trying to do your own SEO, my consultation service is where you would want to start. You can book a consultation directly on my website, cloudsEOdubai.com, and we can discuss your strategy and we can discuss exactly what you're doing, what's going wrong, and how to take your strategy to the next level. Now, if your website is in trouble or you're trying to improve your site, a website audit is probably the first thing you should get. A website audit not only goes through what's wrong with your site, but I also go into what you can do to improve your site, take your site to the next level. Finally, I offer topical mapping services. So if you're trying to rank for a topic or your informational site, many people say that informational content is dead, informational sites are dead, content sites are dead. Not really the case. I work with over 20 content sites and they're doing very well. Even ones that was slapped by the 2023 reviews update. So if you have a content site, you should start with a topical map. Finally, okay, I said finally before, but if you're looking for someone to do SEO for your business and take your site to the next level, I'm your guy. I ranked over 1,000 websites, not only for clients, but also many of my own. And I consistently have delivered excellent rankings across the board for e-commerce, for service-based sites, and for informational sites, also aka affiliate sites. So now that we have that out of the way, let's jump back to the video.
Things are the spam cookbook action. So this is an API that now this has very little to do with cooking, for like if you've been thinking like, all right, this is something to do with recipe sites perhaps, but no, this is not the case. This is a specific set of instructions that will trigger a spam action. Now these include, your usual suspects such as, keywords that are invisible text, hidden links, cloaking, that kind of stuff. But also, now we've found that this algorithm would also hit if you've been spamming your keyword within your site. So anchor text spam and keyword spam within your own site. So if you're trying to rank for buy cars and you have 600 pages out of a 1,000-page website that has the anchor text buy cars, even though, this is an old practice and a lot of SEO still use it, this is not the best way to go about your anchor text. And if you do this, for long enough, it's only a matter of time before Google sees your site as being spammy, and it will then de-rank you. Then there's the localized cluster API. Now, moving on with the content documentation and mainly examining what APIs examine and evaluate content, we have the localized cluster. Now, this one is interesting because it examines the relationship between various localized pages and possibly even translated pages. When Google refers to a cluster, it is often alluding to the relationship between local pages and topical content. Thus, if you are an expert in, let's say, internet marketing, your content will rank better. That is something we already know. So you build that authority as an internet marketer. The difference here is that if you're a local expert, for instance, if you were searching for an internet marketing expert in Germany and you are a local internet marketer in Germany, there's a higher probability that Google will see you as an expert sooner and you will rank higher. And so you might want to think about positioning yourself more as a local expert if that's your thing. Write in the local language, put in your address, put in your name, put in projects that you worked on locally, and that will help you rank. And it's a lot easier than at least that's something I've found. It's a lot easier to rank as a local expert than it is as an international expert. The next one thing is the keyword stuffing score. And if you notice that stuffing is spelled incorrectly, and that's the way it's spelled in the API, so I don't want people saying in the comments, I spelled this incorrectly. The API assigns a keyword stuffing score, which is a 7-bit score between 0 and 127. And you would see that this is a common pattern. Google is using the 7-bit score, and I will in another video I'll talk about why this 7-bit score, or these 7 bits that Google uses, is so important and why it uses this. So we have known for a while that Google has made it clear that keyword stuffing isn't cool. And so this API is validation, and Google is certainly doing something behind the scenes to prevent keyword stuffing, but it's not working. And I still see a lot of sites with keywords stuffed into them working, and Google does not say like how many keywords would merit stuffing, but Google keeps changing this around every few updates. And so if you think like 4% keyword density in your content is good today, once Google updates that algorithm, it's going to be 2% or maybe even 6%. So you might want to avoid the safe keyword ratio, perhaps if you'd like to call it, is like between 1 to 3%. You want to make sure that at least your keyword is in the main part of your text. The next one is SpamRank total log spam score. Now, interestingly, this part of the algorithm assigns a value between 0 and 1. What this means is that either your content is seen as being spammy or is being seen as not being spammy. So either it's spammy or it's not spamming. So when Google mentions the term brain, it usually means AI. In this case, Google has trained its machine learning algorithm, or AI if you'd like to call it that, but it's probably not an LLM, but it's trained on a database of spammy content. And that has helped train the machine learning algorithm how to spot spammy content or the signs of that a piece of content is spammy. Since we have no idea what type of content Google has trained its algorithm on, I can't say for sure what types of content the machine learning algorithm will see as spammy. But it's safe to say that if you follow SEO best practices, when you write good content, it will probably not be seen as spammy. The next one is SpamRank. Now, if you've ever heard of PageRank, and if you've been doing SEO for long enough, you've probably heard of PageRank. And PageRank is still in use. It's received an update. If you're not sure what PageRank is, watch my previous videos. By going to PageRank, there are a bunch of PageRank related APIs that Google is using, and it's still in use. And I've tested it, and yes, it certainly is there. For now, Google also has SpamRank, and this measures the odds of a web page or a document being spammy. This means if you link to low-quality web pages, Google may back the site by labeling it as spam, thus hurting your rankings. And this is the most important takeaway. If you're going to link to an external site, make sure it's a high-quality site. Make sure it's a site that when people click on your link and they go to that site, they find the related information that you're promising in the anchor text. If you don't do that, there's a higher probability that your page, and if you have enough pages that do this, will mean that your site is being seen as spammy. So be very careful with this. The next one is your content gibberish? Now, again, it's a gibberish score between 0 and 127, and I have no idea why Google is using a 0 to 127 gibberish score, when in fact either the content is gibberish or it's not. So it should be either a 0 or a 1. But we think that Google is using this to identify content or pages or dummy pages like lorem ipsum, though I don't think this is working very well because I've seen lorem ipsum pages get indexed by Google. The other one is the fresh box article scores, and this mainly stores scores from the classifiers. And this usually means that it's storing the scores of all the content on your site. So this is looking at a site-wide freshness score. So think of it as that way. So think of it as this being your site-wide freshness score. I'll go into this a little later. Again, this is not the first time we're seeing a freshness score. We've seen the freshness score in other parts of the algorithm, which means that freshness is a very important ranking factor, and you need to make sure that your content is fresh. You then have the on-site prominence algorithm or API. This is used to measure how important a page is on the site compared to all the other pages on your website. My experience, and based on the case studies run by SEOs that I've read, Google is determining this based on computing simulated traffic to the homepage. And so it's figuring out which is the most important page on your site based on where all the traffic is going. Usually it's the homepage, but for e-commerce, it can also be the category pages. For service-based sites, it can also be the main service page. It depends on how you optimize your page and how large your website is. So the key takeaway here is, and so update articles that need to be updated. Plus, the closer the content is to your homepage, the better it is. Then you have commerciality. And this is something I don't think SEOs talk about enough. But a lot of SEOs also make this mistake, and a lot of regular people make this mistake. So Google is measuring the commerciality of a page, which means that if the page is highly commercial, that page will only show when there is a search with a commercial intent, and it will not show for other searches that are not commercial, or the intent of those searches are not commercial. Thus, if the key phrase implies a commercial intent, your page will show. The mistake people make is that they take a page with commercial intent and they try to rank for keywords that are not of commercial intent, that are informational content, or to try to make it like a mixed bag so that they attract the most traffic. Don't ever do that, especially if you're an e-commerce store. Do not put how-to type of content or informational content onto your category page, onto your product page. You shouldn't ever do that because you're sabotaging the commercial traffic that it may get. It will not rank as well because you're confusing Google as to the intention of that page.
So I hope you guys found the video useful. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have a question, and I will see you in the next video.